Welcome to this week's edition of NFL Previews and Picks. Tonight on the NFL Network, the Cleveland Browns visit the Pittsburgh Steelers. In this AFC North battle, you have one team that is battle-tested and knows how to win when it counts the most in the Steelers, and one team that has some really good pieces, but is still learning how to play consistent football in the Browns. With the Steelers in the thick of the playoff chase, I think their experience will be way too much for Cleveland, and they coast to a win. On Sunday, the Kansas City Chiefs visit MetLife Stadium and the New York Jets. These two teams are a lot alike in that they are inconsistent. With Kansas City, you have the team that is playing with its backup quarterback in TJ Yates and doesn't have its main threat at running back. They do have Dwayne Bowe catching passes, and he can be a game changer at times. The Jets are playing unevenly on both sides of the ball. The running game is still a question mark. Speaking of Mark Sanchez has those games where it looks like he should be selling hot dogs in the stadium, and then comes out the next week and throws 4 touchdowns. He would not be my starting quarterback. That's for sure. I give the Jets the ever so slight edge in this game. At Everbank Field in Jacksonville, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come in to play the Jacksonville Jaguars in the Battle of Florida. The Jags are young and playing with an interim head coach. The Bucs are not much more experienced, but they are in the playoff chase. Blaine Gabbert, watch Josh Freeman. He's young too, but he gets it. Bucs win to keep pace with the Saints. At FedEx Field, the New England Patriots come in to play the Washington Redskins. Not a Pats fan at all, but you have to hand it to a team that finds a way to win in spite of its apparent weaknesses. They have leaned on Tom Brady and his receiving corps to score boatloads of points while the defense tries to define its role. You've got to love Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez. They are two young up-and-coming tight ends who will be great for years to come. And opposing defenses still can't sleep on Wes Welker. He is so quick and has great hands. In the Redskins, you have the opposite end of the spectrum. With them, you almost never know what you're going to get. They have changed quarterbacks a few times this season. It's never good when there's instability at the key offensive position on the field. This game could be one of those unwatchable games, but because the Pats are playing, it'll probably be on TV. I will avoid it at all costs, and the Pats will win. At Bank of America Stadium, the Atlanta Falcons go in to play the Carolina Panthers. The Falcons have started winning just at the right time because, like the Bucs mentioned above, they are trying to keep pace with the Saints. Carolina, even with Cam Newton, isn't winning, but they could be good in the future, pending future drafts. Atlanta, with Matt Ryan, Michael Turner, etc., have the playoff experience, which is key at this time of year because they know they have to keep winning in the last quarter of the season. Falcons win. At M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore, the Indianapolis Colts come in to play the Baltimore Ravens. While I have not given the Colts any love all season, I will now. Even without Peyton and with Dan Orlovsky, they played pretty well last week in holding and losing to the Pats by only a touchdown. They may not win a game this year, but if they can finish the season just like that, that may give them hope for next year when either Peyton or Andrew Luck is behind center. The Ravens are led by their defense, and everybody knows it. We all have seen Ray Lewis fire up his team before the game. Their offense, with Joe Flacco and Ray Rice, is good, but can be a little too up and down for me. That should not be a problem this week. The Ravens are gunning for the playoffs and may not plow the Colts, but they still get the win. At Sun Life Stadium in Miami, the Philadelphia Eagles come in to play the Miami Dolphins. Wow. Could these two teams be headed in vastly different directions or what? The Eagles were supposed to be Super Bowl contenders, but that fell flat fast. Injuries and erratic play caught up with them early. Mike Vick has not lived up to that big contract he signed. Deshaun Jackson wants to sign a big contract, but has been dogging it so far this year. Has Andy Reid's message fallen on deaf ears this year? Not sure. As for Miami, they started off 0-7, so their season was over pretty early. In comes Matt Moore, and he provides a spark. Reggie Bush is running better too. It will be interesting to see if Philly has quit or has one last gasp in them. I still think the Finns will win. At Ford Field in Detroit, the Minnesota Vikings come in to play the Detroit Lions. Earlier this season, the Lions were the talk of the NFL, but only beat the Vikings by 3 points. Now they are struggling a little bit, but are still in the playoff hunt. As for the Vikings, let's face it, they are young. Christian Ponder has the tools to be a good NFL quarterback, but it takes time. He was thrown into it this year with the less than stellar play of Donovan McNabb. They still have Adrian Peterson when he is not injured, and sackmaster Jared Allen. The Lions are still in the playoff race, even though they have lost 2 in a row and need to get back on the winning side of things to stay in that race. They do just that here. At LP Field in Nashville, the New Orleans Saints come in to play the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are one of this year's interesting surprises. Matt Hasselbeck was supposed to be a caretaker until Jake Locker was ready to play, but has played well enough to maybe start again next year. Hey, Aaron Rodgers sat for a few years, so why not? They also have Chris Johnson, who has started running like his old self. I figure that maybe he spent some of that money from that big contract he signed, so maybe he's a little lighter. With New Orleans, Tennessee has a lot to prepare for, with Drew Brees, Mark Ingram, and Will Smith. Darren Sproles has been a big surprise for them this year. While Tennessee is chasing the Texans in the AFC South, the Saints are chasing the Packers. New Orleans wins here. Speaking of Green Bay, they welcome in the Oakland Raiders. This game is actually pretty simple. The Raiders got beat by the Jets last week, and the Packers are winning everywhere. Now, I am definitely not an Aaron Rodgers fan, but he is playing at an MVP level, and he is basically doing it without a running game. Oakland brought in Carson Palmer and mortgaged the house to do so, thinking he would lead them to the promised land. Not happening. Green Bay wins here to stay undefeated. At Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, the Houston Texans come in to play the Cincinnati Bengals. As I've said all season, the Texans have gotten help from Peyton's injury. That's not taking anything away from them, but it's just the truth. They are now playing with T.J. Yates at quarterback due to the injuries to Matt Schaub and Matt Leinart. Their defense has held up its end through the injuries. Cincinnati is one of the big surprises of the season. Who would have ever thought that Andy Dalton would not only start, but play well? Not me, that's for sure. They're probably a year or two and a player or two away from contending. Houston has to keep the pedal to the metal and keep winning. They do just that here. Texans win. At Invesco Field in Mile High, the Chicago Bears come in to play the Denver Broncos. Tim Tebow showed a lot of improvement in the passing game last week and is slowly turning haters into believers. The end result is the guy just wins. To me, it doesn't matter how it gets done. A win is a win. If football were about stats, it would be baseball. For the Bears, they are playing with a backup quarterback in Caleb Haney. They are playing without their star running back in Matt Forte, but they still are in the playoff hunt as the 5th seed right now. Losing 2 in a row is not the way they need to go, obviously. Their defense may give Tebow and the Broncos trouble, but the Broncos are on such an amazing roll, and are playing at home, so I'm giving the game to the Broncos. At University of Phoenix Stadium in Arizona, the San Francisco 49ers come in to play the Arizona Cardinals. This could be considered one of those trap games for the 49ers. They have the division wrapped up, but the Cards, who have nothing to play for but pride, have won 2 games in a row. The Niners themselves got back on the winning track last week after losing on Thanksgiving. The Niners need to keep winning to maintain the second seed in the playoffs and get the first round bye. Jim Harbaugh will have them playing better this week, and they get the win. In San Diego, Qualcomm Stadium, the Buffalo Bills come in to play the San Diego Chargers. Buffalo was one of the early season surprises, but has lost 5 games in a row since. The Chargers lost a bunch in a row before beating the Jags last week. That game may jumpstart them and give them one last push down the stretch. When you talk about talent, there is no doubt that the Philip Rivers-led Chargers have more of it than the Bills. My problem here is that I have stuck with the Bills all season. I'm usually a little less emotional than that when it comes to my picks, but I have to stick with the Bills. Last week could have been an aberration for the Chargers. Bills win. At Cowboy Stadium in Dallas, Texas, or Arlington, Texas, the New York Giants come in to play the Dallas Cowboys in a key NFC East battle. Who came up with this schedule? The Giants and the Cowboys play twice in the last month of the season. As it stands now, the Cowboys are in the playoffs and the G-men are on the outside looking in. With that terrible move by Jason Garrett taking the timeout to basically ice his own kicker, will that terrible move by Jason Garrett, taking the timeout to ice his own kicker, come back to haunt them? Will Tony Romo continue his solid play? Can Eli Manning elevate his team to the playoffs? Tough questions all. I don't have the answers. I think the Cowboys come back inspired this week and win this game, taking hold of the division. And finally, on Monday night, the St. Louis Rams go into CenturyLink Field to play the Seattle Seahawks. Again, I want to know who came up with this schedule. This game is another edition of the Irrelevant Bowl. Neither of these teams is going anywhere this year. The Rams have lost 3 games in a row. That's never going to get it done. Sam Bradford looked great last year. This year, not so much. That's okay, though. He's young and will continue to improve. Seattle has a lot of work to do in the offseason. New quarterback, perhaps? Anyway, since somebody has to win this game, I'm going with the homestanding Seahawks. And there you have it, this week's NFL previews and picks.